This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeremy Wolf.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. I'm your host, of course, Jeremy Wolf, and today we have good neighbor Joseph Zager, and Joseph was actually just nominated by a guest I had on the show, Lauren Peffer, who's running for county court judge in Broward. She's an attorney, animal rights law, and she thought Joseph would be an excellent candidate to come on the show and talk all about what he does. He is also running for county court judge as well, so I'm excited to get into this. Joseph, welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you very much. Good to be here. Yeah. And just so you know, and everybody's aware, that I am not running against Lauren Peffer. We are in separate races, so...
I would think that to be the case, but
very nice. Just want to be clear. I mean, obviously, no problem to vote for both of us.
Yes, good stuff. So let's get into this. Why don't we start by talking a little bit about what you do? You own ZAGERLAW. So let's get into what you do at ZAGERLAW, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Sure. It's my own practice. I'm a sole practitioner. Started in 2016. I do primarily family law and criminal law defense. Depending on what my clients' needs are, I've handled everything from, I've done probate work, I've done some wills and trusts, landlord-tenant. I even recently did an unlawful detainer trial, which is getting somebody out of the property. It's almost like a squatter, getting them out. I also did a defamation trial recently. So kind of all around, I'll do what I can for my clients, unless it's too specialized. Then fortunately, I know a lot of attorneys that I can send people to.
So 2016, you started your own firm.
Yes.
Prior to that, so let's go back a little bit. Is the law something you've always had a passion for? Is this something that you were a child and you were doing like mock courtroom trials in your kitchen? How did you ultimately get into law? Let's talk a little bit about the journey that led you here.
Well, when I was a kid, people were like, you should be a lawyer, because I argued a lot. and my path is a little bit different. I actually, I grew up in New York with a single mom. And I actually started washing dishes in a Chinese restaurant when I was 11 years old, out on Long Island. My mom.
The hell with labor laws, right?
Right. Oh, but they meant nothing back then in New York. And from there, I got a paper route. And on my paper route, I met a woman who worked for this restaurant. I came from Port Jeff Station, and down in Port Jeff, right by the ferry that would go to Bridgeport, Connecticut, is now it's become a very big establishment called Danford's Inn. They had me washing dishes there, making minimum wage, which was $2.35 an hour.
Woo!
Yeah, and
you just dated yourself, Joseph.
Well, listen, I don't mind. Listen, I'll tell you. Listen, I'm 53 years old, and I just always worked in restaurants and hotels. And when I decided to go to college, I didn't even apply to a New York school, because I'd spent the weekend up in Oneonta in November. And I said, nope, too cold. So I came down for college in 87. Been down ever since. And I went to UM for 2 years. Much to my chagrin, briefly, my daughter is going to FSU in 3 weeks. I'm trying to live with that. It's growing on me. And then I actually graduated from FIU in hospitality management, which was number 2 in the country when I graduated. And I worked for a few years, again, always in hotels and restaurants. And then I just decided, I thought about aspects of the law enforcement, and I took the LSAT, went to law school, graduated. And what's funny is that the way I got my first job is a friend that I met in law school was interning at the state attorney's office. She said, what are you going to do when you graduate? I said, I don't know. She said, why don't you work at the state? And I went, okay. and so I became a prosecutor. And my journey there is a little different too. I was a prosecutor for almost 3.5 years. And then I left for 4.5 years. And then I went back for about 10 years. And so then in 2016 is when I left to start my own firm. And part of the reason was that I was teaching part-time at an institution called Everest University. And when that school closed, I was a full-time prosecutor as well as teaching, and we were still kind of living paycheck to paycheck. So I had to stop public service. And now the reason why I'm doing this is to go back to public service. And if I may, because I don't know if you're going to ask, I always like to point this out, that while I was at the state attorney's office in 2008, I helped create and start the cybercrime unit, which is responsible for prosecuting the crimes of child pornography and computer child exploitation. And for almost a little over 8 years, anything involving those two crimes, failing to register as a sex offender, misdemeanors that were assigned to the sexual battery unit, meaning all misdemeanors, as well as running a division with a judge where I had to deal with children that were abused and molested. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud to help create that unit. And I'm very proud of the fact that I've spent 13 years of my career living in Broward and protecting victims, specifically children that needed it. And so, I mean, that's one of my big accomplishments.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I do want to get into that. I want to dig a little bit deeper into the cyber crimes. But yeah, you said it. Your journey isn't like what most trajectories are with law. Typically, you go to college for pre-law. I mean, this is the experience I've had from speaking with people, and then it's just a natural transition. Haven't spoken to anybody that has that specific journey. That's very, very interesting. So going back, or let's get into the cyber crimes a little bit more. How did you end up getting into that?
Well, when I went back to the state in 2006, December of 2006. And at the time, there was one other attorney in the unit. The sexual battery unit was about 10 attorneys at the state attorney's office. They have almost, now it's like 200 attorneys. And so I was in the sexual battery unit, assigned with sexual battery cases. And the gentleman that was dealing with it was by himself. And so I started talking to him and I started to help out. And from there, it grew into us being given a grant to actually make it into more than just a couple of cases. And we started working with ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which is local BSO, Fort Lauderdale, Miramar, like all local agencies, federal agencies, FBI, DEA, even postal, and started to learn more about what this does. And I learned about NCMEC, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And this was even before I had a second child. My daughter, when I first started, my daughter was about a year old. She was born in December of 2005. So it was something that became very passionate for me, just especially because I had a daughter then, and then eventually my son was born in 2009. And it just kind of kept me going. It's most people aren't aware, and fortunately aren't aware of what's involved in those crimes, because it's very disturbing.
Yeah. Now, is this something that you had some kind of experience, somebody that you knew in the past was affected by this, or just kind of fell into your lap and it resonated with you and you wanted to do something
pretty much from being in the sexual battery unit? Like I said, I heard about it. It seemed interesting to me in addition to what I was doing, because it started off when I first, in 2006, I just was assigned to a division with real children. And then I got into this, and it just kind of morphed. It was relatively new in terms of, look, people have been committing these crimes since before the internet. And you'd be amazed to know that LimeWire was huge in the dissemination and sharing of child pornography. Not that the company was involved, but people used that platform to share, because it was an easy way at the time. It was the first way that people knew how to share information over the internet. And it was new and interesting to me. And so that kind of helped me get into it. And I did it for 8 to 10 years.
And you're still involved with that now, you said?
Well, what I'm involved with now is more so because I'm in private practice, so I can't prosecute people. I do criminal defense. And I take a different tack that even when I was a prosecutor. Some people say, how can you defend certain people? Well, the job of a defense attorney is, it's not about, I never say my job is to prove somebody's innocence. My job is to make sure the state attorney's office does their job. Because if they do their job correctly and somebody's guilty, well, then something's going to happen to them. But if they don't do their job correctly, or maybe they're not guilty, well, then that's what I'm there to make sure happens, that the right result occurs.
Yeah, I can see how there could be a conflict there for many in terms of defending people with having such involvement in something. If you had a client that had allegations against them regarding child crime or anything like that, I can see how that could be a little bit of a moral tug.
Well, listen, I tell every client, no matter what the crime is, I don't care if it's petty theft or a homicide. The bottom line is, if you didn't do it, then we're going to work to make sure that we can show how the state can't do it. If you did do it, then listen, you might do some time. I mean, because it's not like TV where there's always a smoking gun or there's the Matlock moment where the criminal comes forward and gets found out on the stand. It doesn't work like that in real life, know. And like I said, I do both. I do criminal law now, and I do family law. And a lot of family law stuff, sometimes it can have a criminal component, domestic violence or allegations of sexual abuse. And I'm fortunate in terms of my experience and what I did at the state attorney's office to get me to the place where I am now, where I'm able to effectively look at a case from both sides. Because look, I'll tell you, I was a victim of it when I first started as a prosecutor. Oh, they got to go to prison forever, and which is all well and good, but in reality, somebody who steals a loaf of bread and some meat from a store is not public enemy number one. You got to learn how to evaluate a case and sometimes recommend, or hopefully, if I'm elected, impose an appropriate punishment. That's the job. And after 25 years, look, I also supervise some people that are on the bench today. I supervise people that are in elected political offices. And I waited 25 years to do this because I feel now in my career with my experience that I actually have the knowledge in all different aspects. Because I don't know if you know this, but if I'm elected I'm going to say when I'm elected on August 20th, positive affirmation.
Yes.
But when I'm elected, the chief judge is going to tell me, hey, look, you're going to criminal court or you're going to civil court. And civil court can mean small claims, credit card court, landlord tenant. You don't know.
Oh, so you don't know. So they tell you where you go ultimately. You don't have
and I have the benefit of having 25 years of being in a court. I'm in a courtroom all the time. Almost every week. For 25 years in the courtroom, I have over 85 jury trials to verdict. And when it comes to bench trials, which is what you have like in family law and small claims, where just the judge, between bench trials and hearings and motions, thousands in front of judges. And I also have the benefit of when I was assigned to the misdemeanor cases in sex act, I was assigned to every misdemeanor judge. And when I was going, and at the same time, I'm doing circuit court with the child pornography, computer child exploitation, and the failing to register, along with the division, which is every circuit court judge in the criminal court. So I was in front of and assigned to every single criminal judge in that courthouse for about 8 years. And it gave me a wealth of knowledge that I feel after doing this all for 25 years, I like to think that I now am ready to sit on the bench and listen to both sides effectively and mete out what's going to be proper justice and a proper result for people.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back for a second. Something you were talking about in trying to get the most equitable result for clients. And I wanted to ask you, and this obviously, when you hire an attorney, whether it's for family, whether it's for criminal case, whatever it is,
right,
it's obviously very important for you to be completely forthcoming and honest with the attorney that's representing you. But I think that a lot of people go in and they still hide things from their attorney, and you can't effectively do your job unless your client is being completely honest with you. So talk a minute, if you could, about that, the importance, just to kind of let everybody out there know, if they ever find themselves in a situation where they need legal representation, whether it's for criminal, whether it's for family, whatever it is so imperative in my mind, right, to be completely honest, because you can't properly defend somebody unless you know everything, all the dirty laundry, all the secret. You got to know, otherwise it's likely to come up later, right, and become a problem.
A quick aside to explain that is, federal court's different than state, but in federal court, there are times when the government will call a witness, you turn to your client, you go, well, who's that person? And if the response is, well, I didn't think they were going to find them.
Think again, buddy.
And that what you were saying is true. I tell clients I'm the wrong person to lie to, because if I don't know what I'm dealing with, I can't effectively represent you. Because if I know about the smoking gun, okay, I can deal with it. But if I don't know about it, I can't plan for it. I can't deal with it. You're only going to make your case worse. So whether it's family law, I got parents sometimes who who don't want to tell me everything that they might have said to their spouse or their spouse said to them, or what was done to a child or not done, because they think, oh, it's, it's going to be bad, or I didn't want to get this person involved or whatever. And I'm like, look, I can't stress to everybody listening, if you're going to spend money on an attorney, good hard-earned money, okay, because it's not cheap. It can be very expensive. Be honest with your attorney, because that is your friend. That is the person you're hiring to help you out. And if you don't feel comfortable telling your attorney everything, get another attorney.
Yep.
I mean, otherwise you're hurting yourself.
Makes a whole lot of sense from where I sit. So go back to 2016.
Okay.
You were working with prior to that, you were working with a state attorney, you said.
Yep.
What was one of the most rewarding things in going out on your own to start your own practice? And one of the most challenging things?
Well, I'll start with challenging first. The challenging aspect is that, look, now you're going out on your own, and look, I'll be honest, when you're employed anybody, you get a paycheck. You don't have to worry about it. You just do your job. Now, the challenging thing was starting up a business, from ground zero. Like, what do you do? Incorporation, bank accounts, credit card machines, telephone numbers, telephone line. And then, okay, now you have a business, but now where do you get your clients from? What are you going to do?
Well, they don't just come find you. Come on.
Well, I was fortunate. Like I said, at the time, back when I first went out in 2016, I've been practicing about 17 years or so. And so I knew a lot of attorneys. Some people would refer me cases. I also, I do mailers, which are, get a list from the courthouse every day if people get arrested with like DUIs and things like that. And I don't know if you ever got a ticket, you probably got like 6,000 pieces of mail. And that's kind of what it is. And, you just slowly build up a clientele. And as far as rewarding goes, I've had a few. One great story that I have is one of my earlier cases. I had a client come to me who saw his son one day a month, if mom allowed it. That was the way the divorce went and the time sharing went. And he now has almost 50% time sharing. It was a long, arduous thing. And I will tell you, kind of tongue in cheek, that, we report our pro bono hours. We're not required to do any, but some of those cases turned into more pro bono work than I had wanted, because, you get in. I've had a couple of cases with clients where they owe me a lot of money, but if I get out today, they're going to have to come up with even more money that I know they don't have right now to hire somebody else to get the speed, and they'll be even worse off. So I bit the bullet. I finished the case. I got the result, and some clients pay, some clients don't. That's also challenging, that, at the end of the day, people don't view paying professionals, that if you don't need them anymore or at that moment, they're like, hey, man, I got a mortgage payment, or I got this, I got that. And we're businesses like everybody else. We all have bills to pay. That I'd say is the challenging thing, trying to work that out with the realities of, especially now in this financial situation with inflation the way it is and everything else, trying to work with people. And I work with all my clients to try and make sure that they can afford me and monthly payments, whatever it may be, to make sure they get the representation that they need. That's why I do what I do. And that's why I was a prosecutor for so many years. And that's why I want to be elected judge. I want to go back to public service. And it's something that if you work as any public service, you work as a state attorney or a public defender or in any government run facility, and it is just a job, you need to find something else to do, because you need to want to help people to do this type of work. It's not always the easiest dealing with these things and dealing with people, but it's what we do.
Yeah. I wanted to get into your candidacy for judicial seat a little bit more. I know you touched on this earlier, you alluded to it about the public service and how you worked for the state and then transitioned to the private sector and wanted to kind of get back into public service. What ultimately inspired you to run for a judicial seat? And maybe share some more unique experience. I know you went through some of the experiences that you had earlier, but maybe some of the unique experiences that you feel is going to prepare you for this role.
Well, part of why I decided to do it was one, I'm running in what's called an open seat, meaning the judge is retiring. So okay. I'm not going up against a sitting judge. That was one. Two, after 25 years and some people saying, you make a good judge, you ought to run, you ought to do this, you ought to do that. And the timing just kind of seemed right for me now. There's an open seat, 25 years. I feel I know what I'm doing. I really do believe that I'm going to be, people say you're going to be fair. I think fair can be misinterpreted. I think a good judge will be thoughtful and caring, because what does fair mean? What's fair to you is not fair to the other side.
Depends on the perspective, right?
Yeah, right. And that's my point. So, am I fair to one side and not the other? I also I'm a certified mediator as well, and I tell clients in that vein of why I want to do this is that sometimes the best result is where both sides are unhappy, because you both gave something up, but it's over. If one side walks away, oh my God, I got a windfall, well, then somebody obviously didn't. And that's the balancing test. And, I've been in courtrooms where judges, for lack of a better way to put this, maybe they got up on the wrong side of the bed today. And look, I can't win every motion when I even go into court, but there's no reason whatsoever to justify a judge being rude and disrespectful to anybody in a courtroom. Judges, court personnel, bailiffs, a defendant or a plaintiff, a respondent. And when you get a judge that's completely disrespectful and rude, it's miserable for people that come in, because most people don't go to court. I mean, most people you see them in court, it's their first time there. They don't know what's going on. And so I would like to make sure that if somebody comes into my courtroom, it's welcoming and respectful. May not get what you want, because the facts and law may not be on your side, but you're going to be treated with respect and dignity. And I'm going to listen to you because you have a right to be heard. It just needs to be done respectfully. And that's part of why over the years I've seen some judges, not all, because we have great judges on the bench. We do. I hope to be one of them.
Can you share a personal experience that has helped shape your views on justice and fairness?
Well, I'll give you another one, and not everybody always likes this one, but one was the one I told you about, the father getting to see his son. That helped me. But here's another one. I was a prosecutor. I'd gone to trial, and I just sentenced somebody to prison for failing to register as a sex offender. 24 hours after he was sentenced, Florida Department of Law Enforcement emailed our office with information, and this was his fourth conviction. So he had 3 other prosecutions before I got this case, and he had at least 4 defense attorneys. Okay. And so by the time the 4th one came, just another failing to register. After they sent the paperwork that not only should he not be convicted, but he was never required to register as a sex offender in the state of Florida. So I, as a prosecutor, wrote the motions for all 4 of his cases to vacate the sentences, vacate the convictions, and vacate the pleas, and then to have them all expunged, have all the records destroyed. Because what people don't understand is that a prosecutor's job is not to send people to prison, it's to seek justice. And from the time I got that email, it was about 24 hours or so, we got the information from FDLE. Within 48 hours, that man was out of prison. I mean, I worked fast and feverishly to get that done. And I would say, look, that's a criminal example and a family law civil example of what it means to me to seek out justice. Because, like I said, justice isn't sending people to prison, and justice isn't just winning your client's case. Because I tell clients, look, you want this, but you may not get it. It's reasonable to ask for. I won't file a lawsuit and try and get something that somebody shouldn't try to get. But sometimes the burden is very high. We got an uphill battle, and we'll do it, but you got to have realistic expectations. And so I think, look, after 25 years. We could go on and on. We don't have all day, but there's just been a lot of different instances. Also, I've also seen judges misapply the law. I've seen a case where they call it prima facie in a criminal case, meaning that there are at least basic facts to show. If you look at them they call it in the light most favorable to the defendant. If there's no crime, it gets dismissed. And I've seen judges who say, yeah, but we know what really, on a bench trial, I've seen a judge go, yeah, but we know what happened. They're guilty. I go, wait a second, judge, that's not the law. And it's misdemeanor court, which, I want to go in. I want to make sure that things like that don't happen to people. It's just not right.
I could see why people have told you in the past that you would make a good judge. You have a very good disposition and temperament to occupy the bench. You seem very, very level-headed in that regard. So it's good stuff.
Well, thank you. It's 10:35 in the morning. So.
So all work and no play makes Jack a dull, or makes Joe a dull boy. When you're not working, when you're not running for your candidacy for the judge, when you're not out there helping your clients, what do you like to do for fun? Talk a little bit about your personal life and your family and what you do in your downtime, if you have any.
Well, I don't have a lot. I haven't had a lot of downtime in the past 6 months, but normally I make time for downtime. And briefly, I mentioned I have a daughter, 18, going to FSU in 3 weeks. My son will actually be 15 the day of the election, August 20th. So I told them we're going to have a party, hopefully a really big party, but we'll see. Look, I spend time with my kids. I came down to Florida, I told you, 37 years ago. I lived in Broward for 35. I came down here for the weather. So I love going to the beach. I love just sitting on the beach, listening to some music, and kind of shutting off, if you will. That is a great way for me to spend some downtime. And I'm sharing this with everybody because I'm pretty proud of this. Before I started running for judge back in February, I've lost 32 pounds.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And I got my color back, because I've been out walking on the weekends, knocking on doors. So, I work out in the mornings. I can't work out with my girlfriend because I work out at 5 a.m. and she just won't get up that early. And I do it that early just because I don't have any other time. And listen, I like theater, whether it be live theater or movies, things like that. And so it's all around of just trying to combine when I can step away from the computer or the email, spend time with the kids, go to the beach, or, even, it's not as much now, but like we would go and every single Marvel movie that would come out, we always had a date and that's what we did.
We're often shaped by our most trying experiences. Looking back through your journey, is there anything that comes to mind, a life hardship or challenge, something that you struggled with tremendously, where at the time, having gone through it, you thought it was kind of the end of the world, walls were closing in, couldn't recover from it. But now with hindsight, looking back, you could say that you're either better off for having gone through that experience or grateful at least for having experienced that.
Look, there are many things. I would tell you, I guess I have 2 children. I'm divorced. And I actually got divorced in 2016. In August of 2016, I quit my job, got divorced, and started my own firm. So, all or nothing, right? And at the time, it was a very trying experience personally. Nobody wants to admit, I deal with clients like this too. I go, nobody wants to admit that you failed at something. That's a pretty personal failure and a pretty public failure too, because everybody's going to know what's happening. And that was a lot to get through. But I will say this, and I say this to all my clients and potential clients. If every divorce was like my divorce, there'd be no business. Me and my ex-wife, and it's funny, my ex-wife, she worked in the courthouse. She actually worked. She was the supervisor for the division that handled pro se litigants going through divorce or family court. So she worked with every single family court judge and personally and knew them when we got divorced. And you might think, but listen, we had a problem. we worked it out. But I got to say now, I'm very blessed that it is worked out wonderfully. Like I said, if every divorce like mine, there'd be no divorce business. We have a great relationship. We co-parent. We have dinner with the kids, and I think even that's that one thing. I think it's always important for people to remember that no matter how bad things get, because most people don't want to talk about personal business, understandably, they want to keep it private. Fortunately, there's a lot of help out there for everybody. And I think it sounds trite maybe, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. You just gotta keep going. Like, it's been rough. I mean, I got divorced and recently, within 2 years, my mom passed away, new business. And I keep going. I'm very blessed. Look, like I said, 2 great kids that really helped me go. And I mentioned earlier, great relationship with my ex-wife. I mentioned to you, my girlfriend who you interviewed, who is
shout out.
I mean, she makes me look like I don't work, because she's an A-type personality, workaholic.
Shout out to Hope Stoller.
Yep. Shout out to Hope Stoller. If you need to buy or sell, she is and by the way, she's a great realtor. I think in her company there's 1,200 realtors with Charles Ornberg, and I believe she's number two in the company. Excellent. That's impressive. So
also local Cooper City residents.
Yes,
right?
Yes, she's a Cooper City resident, and it's one of those things that I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today. I wouldn't be in the position now to run for judge. I still got Nicole, my ex, in my life. I got Hope in my life. I got my kids in my life. I got great family and friends, and I have a great wealth of experience. Some not so great, but like I said, doesn't kill you, makes you stronger. And I think I'm grateful that all those experiences have kind of led me to today. And I'm just really hopeful that on August 20th, early voting, the August 10th through 18th, that people go out and vote, and they'll consider voting for me for county court judge in Group 16, because I really want to go back and give back to public service in the community that I've been serving now for 25 years.
How can our listeners learn more about, one, your candidacy? Where could they find information on that? And then 2, about your legal services?
Candidacy is at electjosephzager.com. That's my website. And from there are links to the Facebook page and Instagram page. And to find out about my law firm, it's ZAGERLAW.com, ZAGERLAW.com. And again, there's information about all the services I provide, what I've been doing. And the phone number to call is 954-888-8170. And just please remember, vote for Joseph Zager.
Perfect. We will, of course, put a link in the description to all of your information so our listeners can check in a little bit further and learn a little bit more. Joseph, it's a pleasure having you on the show, learning all about your story. So thanks for joining us.
Jeremy, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really, really enjoyed it. I wish I would have known about this sooner. Thank you.
Yeah. I wish you the best of luck moving forward on everything you're doing. And thanks as always to our listeners. And we will catch you all next time on the next episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Everyone take care. Have a great day.